Hi guys, so in this tutorial we're going to be basically creating this smooth scroll image reveal parallax effect. You can see as we scroll we get that nice parallax effect on the images, and they also reveal using the clip path. Okay, so see as we scroll down we get that nice revealing effect. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. This will be implementing our own custom smooth scroll so we can adjust the speed to suit taste. But yeah, let's get going. Thanks guys. Okay guys, so to get started, you can see I've just got an index.html file, a style.css, and an app.js file, and I also have an images folder here, and I've just sourced three images from Unsplash. One's of London here, an overview photo of London, got Madrid here, and then we have Paris for the final picture. Use whatever images you want, this is just for this tutorial. I'm actually just going to create as well a folder. We're going to call this JS, and we're actually going to place our JS files in here because I want to use modules for this project, and we can just segregate our code to make it more maintainable. So I'm also going to add a new JS file, and we're going to call this smooth scroll .js, like so. Okay, and this is where we're going to just place the JavaScript code to implement our custom smooth scroll. Okay, so if we come to our index.html first, we'll start there. We're just going to emit some boilerplate code using the exclamation mark. I'm using VS Code here. Let's just make this a bit bigger as well. And we'll zoom in. So the first thing I want to do is just say, I don't know, call it whatever you want. I'll just say whatever, cities. And then in the body, we're just going to have a main div element, and then within this main div, this is basically just going to be the element that contains all of our page content. And so what I should do before that as well is we'll just do a link to our style.css file, and then at the bottom of the body we'll link to our main app.js file. This will be the main JavaScript file we reference in our HTML, and then we'll import this smooth scroll JavaScript module into the app.js to reference that. And I'll show you how to do that shortly. So what we'll do, just to show you, we'll say script and a source, and then we'll just point this towards our JavaScript folder, js/app.js. And then what I also want to do here, just to show you what we're doing, if you just say const my name equals Conor, and then I'll make that a string, and then if we just export this, so we can say export, so we can export this variable in an object like so we can just say my name here, and then in here we can just say import, and then we can destructure my name from that file. Okay, and then if we say here console.log my name. Now, if I open this up in Live Server, and let's just go back to VS Code. So yeah, we're importing that here. Now we should receive an error because basically we can't run an import like this without stating that this is a module in the file. So if I just open my console, you'll see we have an error here, and it says cannot use import statement outside a module. So if we just set this script to type of module, you should see now that we get my name logged in the console there. So that means it's working. So just remember to specify that it's a module we're using here in order to import that smooth scroll logic, which we're going to implement soon. I'll delete this for now. We won't need that going forward. So if we come back to our index.html, now what we want to do in our main elements, we'll just say we'll have a div with a class of scrollable. And this is going to be the div which we translate with JavaScript to get that nice smooth scrolling functionality. I'll then have a section in here. It won't contain much. We'll just have a H1 with welcome, like so. And then we'll come out of here, and then we'll create another section. So a section here. And this will be used just to basically contain all of our images. So we can implement this kind of scroll-based animation. So in this section, we'll have a div of a class of container. And then this will be used basically just to center our content for this section, and then we'll have a div of a class of image underscore double underscore wrapper. This will contain our images, And we need a wrapper just to get that parallax effect implemented, so we can get that nice kind of, we'll make our images animate as we scroll. And this will basically just be a wrapper so the images don't overflow that wrapper. And then we'll have an image, and then we'll set the source to images, and I'll just do the first one for now. You can see I've named these images 1, 2, 3, so just remember to just reference the correct name here. And then for alt, I think the first one, what did we have? It was London, so if we come back, I'll just say London image, like so. And that's just for SEO, why you'd put this alt. It's quite important, I think, as well, for accessibility as well. And then if we also just say H3, and then we can just say London. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this image wrapper down, 2 more times. So if we just take that image wrapper, and then we'll copy this down here and paste it down here. Done that twice, and then we just change the numbers, so 2 and 3. Now the second one was Madrid, so we just changed that. So Madrid image and Paris image. And then we'll just change these H3s as well to Madrid and Paris. Okay, so that's looking good. You can see our images are there. Okay, and I think that's pretty much it for our HTML. What I do want to do actually is just add another section, just so we can get some more scroll, some more space to scroll down, so we can really see this effect working in the final version. Okay, so now if we come to our style.css next, let's get some styling going. So the first thing I want to do, if we just make this a bit smaller, is I just want to actually grab a Google font as well. So we'll just say Manrope font. And I'm going to use this font called Manrope from Google. And what I want here, let's just get a nice bold one. So I'll just say, I'm going to go for extra bold here actually, so we can grab that. I'll copy this HTML, the link tags here, so just copy that, and then we can paste that in the top of our, just above our style.css link here, paste those in, and then we can just also just grab the CSS, so just this font family, Manrope, and a fallback of sans serif font. So now if we just come to our style.css here, I'm first just going to reset all of the default margins and paddings, so we can just say margin 0, padding 0, box size in border box, and then you can see that's removed all the default margins and paddings, and then we're just going to use that Manrope font as well. And I'll just say letter spacing, we'll just do -0.5 EMs just to bring those letters. That's a bit too much. We'll say 3, just to bring them a bit close together. And there's our fonts, looking good. Okay, so the next thing I want to do now is let's just, we'll say, maybe let's just do a font size actually. So we'll do a font size, a general font size of 2 rem, just to make it slightly bigger. Maybe 1.7 rem. There you go, we've got some nice big fonts there now. And then we can also just say, we'll give it a font weight. Actually, no, that'll do, that's fine. Okay, so now let's move to our HTML and body. And let's just give this, we'll give it a background color of 0F, 0F, 0F. Let's put a hashtag on there. And there you go. And I'm going to just specify, I want the colours of our text to be an orange colour. So we'll just say colour, do a hashtag FB5A32. Okay, so that nice orange colour applied to our text now. And then what I want to say now is I want to target the main element. Okay, so we'll say main, and we're going to give this a position of fixed. And then we want to say top of 0, so it's to the top, to the 0, so it's basically at the very top of the viewport. We want it to be to the very left of the viewport, and we want to give this a width of 100%, and a height of 100%. And now you'll see you shouldn't be able to scroll because that main element is now fixed. So now I can't scroll the content. Okay, and then the next thing we want to do here, let's just come down to our, we'll target our h3s next. Okay, so remember all of our kind of city titles within our image wrappers were specified as h3s. So I'm just going to target all those. And then we can just say here, position of absolute, and we'll just say bottom, bottom, and we'll say 0.5 rem, and then we'll say right as well of 0.5 rem. Okay, and then we'll also just say for the h3s, okay, that should do for now. So they're all in this weird position where they're all overlapping each other, but we are going to set the image wrappers to position relative soon, so they'll take up their own, or they'll just be in the bottom right of their own respective images. Okay, so ignore that positioning for now. Now, the next thing I want to do is to specify the scrollable div. So we'll say scrollable. We're going to give this a position of absolute. We'll say top 0, left 0. So we position this scrollable relative to the parent, which of course is the main element here. And then we want to give this a width of 100%. And we also just want to say will change here and transform, because we're going to be using JavaScript to transform the position of this scrollable div. And therefore this will just optimize the browser to perform that transformation with JavaScript. Okay, and then the next one I want to do here is we're just going to say section. And we're going to say position relative, and then we want to give this a width of 95% sections. Okay, and then we can just say want to display this with grid as well, and we're going to specify grid template columns here. So grid template columns, and we're just going to use the repeat function and say 12.1fr. Okay, and then we can just say I think we don't want to do that on there. Actually, we want to do that on the container. Sorry, guys. Yeah, ignore me there. So let me just take that grid piece out. We'll do that on a container, and here we'll just say for this section actually, we'll just say display flex. We want to display this with flexbox so we can center the content. Okay, and then we can just say justify content center, like so. And then we'll say padding top 120 pixels to give it a nice bit of padding, like so. So now you can see our content's nice and centered there. And then we can also just say a min height. I'll give us a min height of 20 VH. Okay, so that's looking good. And now if we come to our container underneath this, so you'll remember in our section here, so we have a section, and in this second section with the images we have this container div. Okay, so that's what we're targeting here. So we'll say container, and here we'll say position relative, and then we'll say a width of 95%, like so. And now you can see we've got that slight padding there on the side, or that nice margin. And then we can just say I want to display this with grid, so I'll just paste that grid in there. So it's display grid does make columns 12.1fr. So if we just inspect this to see what that does, you'll see for our container, okay, can't really see the grid too clearly at the moment, but we'll see it shortly. So we're displaying that with grid, repeat 12. So we're repeating it with 12 fraction units on the grid template columns. That means the grid will be basically split into 12 columns for which we can lay our content out. And then we can just say align items center, and then we'll also just say a gap of 10 pixels. Okay, so now the next one I want to do here, okay, there's an error there, so let's just first remove that import. Okay, Now, the next thing I want to do here is in our style.css, we'll come underneath the container. Let's just target our image wrapper next, okay? So we'll say .image double underscore wrapper. And we want all of our image wrappers to have a position of relative, basically. And then we'll just say, want them all to have an overflow of hidden as well. Overflow hidden, like so. And that means you can't see the images overlapping anymore. And now you can see how our container is split into those 12 columns. And they're all taking up one column now, each of our images, okay? And then we can also just say we want to give this a height of 100% as well. Okay, now we're going to target each of our image wrappers individually now. So let's just get this first one. So we'll say image wrapper, and then we can say env child 1. So this will target the first image wrapper. And then we can say here grid column. So we'll say grid column, and we can just say here span 5. And what that will do, that will just make it span 5. That should be span 5, sorry. And that will just span 5 grid columns. Okay, so you can see that first image is now taking up 5 of the grid columns. That's looking good. And then the next one I want to do here is the second image wrapper. So let's just take that now. Env child 2. And here we want this to start on grid column 6, and then we want it to span 7 columns. Okay, so you can see that takes up, well, it starts from the 6th column and then takes up the remaining 7 columns. And then we want this to be on a grid row of 2. So say grid row of 2, like so. Okay, and that has gone to the second row now. You won't see it at the moment, unless you bring this down. No, you won't see it at the moment, but we'll adjust that later. And then we'll say, what else do you want to do here? Yeah, we'll just say the third one. So we'll target the third grid or image wrapper next. And we'll set this to have, we'll say grid column span 6. We'll say span 6 here. And then we'll just say grid row of 3. Okay, so that's that done. Now the next thing we want to do under here is if we just target each of our images. So we'd say image, we'll give this a width of 100%. We'll say a height of 140%, like so. And you can see at the moment the images are actually kind of distorted. They don't look very sharp. So what we need to do is just preserve the aspect ratio as well. So what I'm going to say here is object fit, and we'll say cover. And now you can see they've gone back to their original aspect ratio. So that's important. It will just basically preserve the aspect ratio of the image regardless of the actual container. Okay, and then the next thing we want to say here is object position as well. So say object position of center, like so. And then we can also just say, well, I'm going to put this as a top of minus 20%. And that's why we set the height to 140% here. It's because we're going to, as we scroll, we're going to have that parallax kind of animation occur on our images. And we're going to be translating the position. So that's why we need to just have some kind of, well, we're making the height 40% larger than the actual height of the image wrapper. Okay, and then we can next just say, I want to give this a filter as well. So we'll just say filter of grayscale, 100%. We'll just grey out our images. And then next one I want to do is actually just use a clip path, okay? Because we're going to have this reveal animation and we're going to be using the clip path to do that, specifically the polygon function. And we're just going to input some coordinates now. So the first coordinate will be the X and Y axis from the top left. Okay, so we want it to be 40% of the image wrapper around 40% on the X axis and 40% on Y axis. So the image basically starts here. So we clip the image up to this point. So I'll just say for now in our CSS 40% and 40%. We'll then do a comma for our second set of coordinates, and that will be 60% on the X axis. And again, 40% on the y-axis. So we'll say here 60% and then 40%. And then for the third, we want to bring it down here. So again, we'll say 60% on the x-axis and around 60% on the y-axis this time. So we'll say 60% and 60%. And then for the final set of coordinates, we'll just bring it back to the bottom left, and we'll just say so 40% and 60%. You can see now our images have been clipped. Okay, that's looking good. And then I just want to specify here a will change just to optimize the animations here. So we're going to be transforming the images, transform, and then I'll just say clip path as well, just so we have our browser optimized to perform the changes of those with JavaScript. And that is it for our CSS. So let's move to our JavaScript now. And the first thing we actually want to do is do our smooth scroll. So to do the smooth scroll, we can just say, the first we want to do is actually just get a lerp function. Okay, so this is what we're going to be using to perform the smooth scroll animation. So we'll say function lerp. This takes a start, an end, and a t variable. And then we can just say return start times 1 minus t plus end times t. Okay, like so. So that's the equation to have this lerp function working. If I just bring this in here for now, I just can see what it actually does. What this will do, so if we say for example console.log the lerp function, and we're just taking a start, which for example would be 0, an end which should be 10, and then we specify a fraction or a time of how the distance we want it to travel for each frame. So we'll just say 0.5. So 0.5 is obviously halfway between 0 and 10 is 5. So let's just see that in the console. You'll see we have 5 logged. Again, if we set this to 80%, so 0.8, you get 8 logged in the console. So that's what that lerp function is doing. And basically, we're going to be running this lerp function on every request animation frame that we use. So it'll always work out the distance from the previous start to the target. So that's what we're doing with this lerp function. Okay, that's how it works. So let's just delete that for now. Go back to our smooth scroll. Now we're going to have a class here. We're going to call this smooth scroll. And what this is going to do is going to take, well, we're going to have a constructor here. It's going to take in the element which we're going to be using, or we're going to be scrolling, as well as all the images which we're going to be animating as well. Okay, and then we can just say this.l for element equals L that we pass in, which will be the scrollable div. Then we'll say this.images, and that should just be images, and then we can just say equals images. We can then say this.current y equals 0, and then we'll do a target y as well. This is what we're going to be using for that lerp function, which I just spoke about. And then we can say we'll have a function called this.setup. This will be used to set up the this will be a method in our class, so we'll just say setup here. And then we'll also have a method called this.onWindow resize, just so we can reset all of our dimensions when we resize the image, or the screen rather, the viewport. And then finally we'll have a this.animate function in this class. So we'll say on window resize as a method and animate. Okay, so there you go. That's the kind of skeleton. So let's just set up our smooth scroll first. So what we want to say here is we want to set the document body height. At the moment there's no height on the body, because remember we have that fixed div, and as it's fixed to 100% of the width and 100% of the height, you can't scroll the viewport. So basically the body the height of the body is actually the height of the viewport. So we need to adjust that to fit the size of the content. So to do that, we can just say document.body.style.height, and that's going to equal, we use template literals here, and we can just say this.l that we pass in .offset height, and we can just say pixels here like so. Okay, and then what we want to do next is we want to say window.add event listener. We want to listen out for a scroll event. And here, what we want to do with this scroll is we're just going to say this.targetY equals, and we can just say window.scrollY. Okay, and we're going to use that target Y in our alert function. That's it for the setup. And we want to do the same thing for, we just want to copy this down actually. So we'll just say, on window resize, what we want to do here, we just want to say window.add event listener. We'll listen out for the resize event. And here we can just say, we just want to reset the size of our content. So we can just say documents.body, we'll just copy this down. And set the element or the scrollable, the body height to our element.offset height. Okay, so let's test this out. If I come to our app.js file, and what we're going to do here, we're just going to say import smooth scroll from /smooth scroll, and you have to add the JS extension on there. And then what we can do, we'll just say const scrollable equals documents.query selector. We'll take that scrollable div. And then we can say let images equal document. We'll use a spread operator here, and we'll say document.query selector all, and we'll just say image. And then what we can do now is just implement a new instance of that smooth scroll. We can say pass in the scrollable div. Remember, it takes the element first, and then just our images. Okay, so let's see what's going on in our console. Looks like we have an error. The requested module smooth scroll.js does not provide an export name smooth scroll, and that's because we have to come in here and we just need to say export that smooth scroll class, like so. Okay, and then properties of null, cannot read properties of null, read an offset height. In setup, so let's just see, we'll just say console.log L, we have a null there, so why is that returning a null? So we have our scrollable here, and that should have a dot as it's a class. And there you go. Okay, cool. So now you can see that we have our body, and it's looking like it's adjusting to the size of our actual content now as we have that scroll bar occurred. Okay, obviously it's not doing anything because we need to do the transformation, but that looks like it's worked. Now if we come back to our our smooth scroll JavaScript file, and then what we want to do here is in the animate function, the first we want to do is just say request animation frame, okay, because we're going to be repeatedly calling this animation frame over and over again. So we can just say this dot animate, and we need to dot bind this keyword, okay, so it knows to call this instance of the animate function within this smooth scroll class. Okay, so that's what we're doing. And if we just say console.log hi, you should see now in our terminal, or our console rather, that we're getting hi logged repeatedly. So these are all the animation frames. It's around 60 frames per second usually you should be getting, and this will just get us to achieve that nice animation. So now what we can do with that console log, the first thing is just going to say this.currentY equals lerp, and we want to take in the previous current Y position, and then we want to reference the target Y, which we set with our scroll up here. So we'll say this.targetY, and then here we can then just say 0.055 if you want. This is like adjust this to taste, but this will allow us to get that smooth scroll functionality working. And then what we can say here is this.l.style.transform, and then we can say equals translate 3D, and here we're going to say 0 on the x-axis because we're only using this to scroll vertically, and then we'll say we'll do a minus this dot current y, and then we can say pixels, and then 0 on the z-axis. Now the reason I'm using translate 3D here is because I've read that that is more optimal for the CPU for just performance really. So if you want to use transform, translate y, I don't think it makes too much of a difference, but that's why I'm using translate 3D. So now you can see when we scroll, we're now getting a nice smooth scroll applied. And as I said, you can adjust this to taste. So if you want it really slow, you know, just adjust these here. You can see that's now going really slowly. But yeah, I tend to find 0.075 is probably a nice, it's a nice smooth scroll, and that's working. Okay, and again, adjust to your screen. So yeah, looking good. Okay, so next thing I want to do now is animate our images. So to do that, we can say for let I equal 0, whilst I is less than this dot images dot length, we'll just say I plus plus, and then we can say first thing I want to do is just destructure the top and height elements from our image wrappers for each image. So we can say let top and height equal, and I'm going to use a bracket or a parentheses here. So we'll just say, let's just do this dot images. We're taking the I iteration, and then we need to target the parent element, because remember the parent element is the image wrapper for each of our images. Remember each of our images are in this image wrapper div, that's where they're contained. And then what we need to do here, so say parent element, and then we'll just say dot get bounding client rect, like so. And then, so I can say here, for example, if I equals 0, then console.log top, just to show what this does. If we open this up, so now you should see what this does. It gets us the distance in pixels, our first images from the top of the viewport, or the wrapper of our first image. You can see at the moment it's 306 pixels. As we scroll down, it gets closer and closer, and then it gets here, the top of our wrapper is now 14 pixels from the top of the viewport. So we can adjust this more. Now it's minus, that means the wrapper is gone beyond the top of the viewport. So that's what we're doing there, and the height is just the height of our wrapper basically. Okay, so now we can say here, we want to just adjust this top variable to say top equals, and we just need to do some calculations here. So I'm just going to say top, and I'll explain this in a minute. We'll do a double parentheses here, and then we just need to say top minus window dot inner height, and we want to say times 0.5, and then coming out of that, we just need to say, sorry, just thinking here. So we'll come out of this first parentheses, we'll say minus height times 0.5. So we've got that height variable times 0.5. And then we can just come out of here and just say times 0.15. Now the reason we're doing this is because what we want to say when we're translating our images, we want to consider the height. Well, we want our images to be halfway within the viewport. So that's when they'll be in full view, when it gets to halfway in the viewport. So that's why we're taking into consideration the window.inner height times 0.5, so half of that inner height there. And we're also considering the height of the wrapper as well. So we're subtracting that, so it's fully revealed exactly at the halfway point of the viewport when it comes into that position. And then we're just timesing it by a 0.15, just so it's a nice slow animation, okay? And then we also just need to specify the trans top as well. So we can just say so this will be the parallax effect setting. So we can say trans top equal top. So, and then what we can say now is we're going to just grab that top and we're just going to say equals. If the top is less than 0, then we want it to remain at 0, okay? And we're using a ternary operator here. Else we can say if top is greater than or equal to 50, then we'll just leave it at 50. Else we'll just say top, like so. And this will just be used for our clip path, okay? So we don't want it to go beyond 50%, that's why I specify it's 50, and we also just don't want it to be clipped beyond 0 as well. Obviously that's out of bounds. So let's just specify that that's going to be used for the clip path transformation. Okay, so now what we can say is this.images, nearly done here guys, .style clip path, and here we can use a ternary operator here, and we'll just say polygon, use the polygon function again, and then we'll just say for the first one we'll just say 0 plus top, and then we can come out of here and say %. Let's make this a bit bigger so you can see this, and then we'll also just say 0% for the y-axis, and then we'll do a comma, and then we can say for the second set of coordinates we'll just do 100% minus top for this time, come out of here and say %, and again the second one will be 0, and then for the next one we can just say so we'll do 100 minus top %, and then we'll also just say 100% here for the second parameter, and then for the final set of coordinates we'll just do 0 plus top %, and again we'll leave that at 100%. So let's just see if that is actually working. If we come back to our this.images i.style.clip path. Let's make this a bit smaller. Doesn't look like that's doing anything to our clip path at the moment, so let's just see what's going on there. Dun, dun, dun. Clip path equals polygon. We've got that on there, 100 minus top, and that should be, we used the wrong, okay, yeah, that's working now. Now you can see as we scroll we get that nice image reveal effect come in. Okay, so that's looking good. We have our clip path working now. I'm also just going to set our min section height here to around, let's just come up to our section. We'll set this to around 80 just so we get a bit more scroll really. So now you can see when they come into the viewport, let me just refresh that as well. Yeah, you get that nice reveal effect. Okay, and now just what I want to just resolve now is just get that parallax working. So we can say here in our smooth scroll, let's just say come underneath this one, and we'll say this.images i.style.transform equals, and we'll say translate 3D, 0 on the x-axis, and then we want to take that trans top pixels for the y-axis, and then 0. And now images that should be transform, and now you can see we get that nice parallax effect on our images on scroll. And there you go, get a nice parallax effect and that nice reveal effect, and it's all optimized with the will change, so we get a nice performance smooth scroll, and we can fully customize the speed of it just by adjusting in our smooth scroll here yeah, we can just say, yeah, specify the speed here. So if we want it to go really slowly, you can see. But yeah, as I said, I tend to find 0.075 or 0.1 is the sweet spot for this smooth scroll. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. That's just how you implement a nice parallax image reveal effect using your own custom smooth scroll with vanilla JavaScript. Thanks for watching. Happy New Year to you all. And yeah, I'll see you next year. Thanks.